core values of Norman Rorke Prime, the small business ethos, the professional standards, and the agility and the proactiveness are at the core of everything that we do. And this year, you, our work colleagues, and these core values have brought us great success. Turnover in 2018 is up 15% to 4.85 million. We've had 2 new full directors in Matt Sawyer and Niall Glennon, 5 new associate directors in Jamie Orme, David Hickman, Martin Woodley, Alex Stebbings and Chris Atwood, and 2 new associates in Jason Safayed and Sean Baharrell. The Bristol team has outgrown its Orchard Street office and has moved to larger premises in Colston Avenue. We're in the Building magazine top 150 consultants, and we've moved up from 149th to 113th. We've got very high staff retention percentages, and last year we targeted reaching that magical 50 number for staff, and I'm proud to say this year we've pushed that, we've achieved it, we've pushed past it, and we now employ 58 in UK. We've employed James Bradley to assist with bid writing and some marketing assistance. We have Tasha Ettridge as practice manager, who's introduced our new best friend, Bamboo, and has helped us all with our calendars. And we now have Howard Wallace joined us as our new financial director. As you're aware, over the last few weeks, we've been filming lots of our projects across our traffic and transport division, our highways infrastructure, and our 2 building consultancy divisions. And here are some of our current projects and project teams.
I'm going to talk about Globeworks student accommodation. It's a £25 million project in Birmingham's historic Gun Quarter. The arrangement is mostly studios with a small kitchenette in them, as well as rooms with a shared kitchen. I wish I was a student now because it's quite different to student accommodation of the past when I was a student. Amenities on the ground floor, gym, a coffee shop, retail, a laundry, then all of them have got en-suite facilities. There are accessible studios as well. In fact, the whole scheme is fully accessible. They are advertising the scheme already. They are doing well as far as I know.
My name is Joe Evers. I'm an assistant quantity surveyor in the London construction team. I'm going to talk about the Bargate Quarter in Southampton. It's a £100 million mixed-use development in the centre, a mixture of retail, private rental sector, hotel, to create a premier destination for affluent people in Southampton. The stone wall is being retained and being refurbished, so the scheme itself is sympathetic to the medieval wall and the bar gate that dates back to the 12th century. So it's modernity plus history. Currently, demolition is approximately 95% complete. We're in the stage of appointing a contractor and going through the second stage of the design and build process. Looking to start on site latter part of this year with a practical completion in 2021.
The project is 9 Grosvenor Square, and it was a refurbishment of a Grade 2 listed building which had a previous occupant of a former Prime Minister as his offices. We had to gut it. It had planning for new cycle stores and basement, and eventually it had a further planning application to put skylights in the roof, which was eventually granted during construction. It's set out in a Georgian style and been completed in that manner. The bricks were original. We just had to keep cleaning them and repointing. The other plaque is John Adams, who was ambassador to the United States, and the building originally was the American Embassy in the Court of St. James. It was an interesting project in the sense of its history, and trying to bring back some of the elements that we knew from the original planning drawings and photos that the interior designer was adamant to try and bring back into the building. We're just very close walk to Oxford Street's just a 2-minute walk that way. You've got Piccadilly Circus, Regent Street, Covent Garden's just 2-3-minute walk that way, so we really are in the heart of the West End. The project here is taking 3 existing buildings, which were previously offices and a mix of there was cafe, hairdressers, hadn't been touched for a long time. It was basically a warren of small rooms that have been let out to your usual Soho mix of architects, photographers, tailors, porn production company. So we had squatters that occupied this building. And at about 5 o'clock in the morning, I had to turn up as client representative. So we had police and dogs and everything that were on the rooftop there. We had to go into the rooftop here. So that as you went into the building, make sure they didn't chain themselves to the railings on the roof. So that was an interesting experience. And we flushed all them out and had to secure the building. The 3 buildings being amalgamated and extended. So at ground floor and basement, we'll have a good quality retail and new cafe unit. We're going to create a new double height entrance lobby. And then above that, by knocking out all of the walls and creating large open plan floor plates, it's going to be very nice high spec office space. I think it's a great location, and I'm going to be really proud of what we produce here actually.
This scheme proposes to create a new public realm, a new public space on 200-metre section of the Strand in the centre of London, hopefully on a par with Trafalgar Square in terms of its size. It will enable the buildings to open up, especially on the northern side. There's the opportunity to have cafes, and there are going to be park spaces, grass space, little new trees, all sorts of things in this area to make it more inviting for somewhere for people to come. It currently carries a few thousand vehicles per hour, and these will be displaced onto Aldwych, which is currently a one-way gyratory. That will be made 2-way. And this is St Mary le Strand Church. Not many people know about it. It gets a bit lost in all the traffic and all the buses, but hopefully with the new scheme, this whole area will be transformed into an event space and a space for the students, the workers, the visitors that use this area day in, day out.
This is the Covent Garden area traffic study. What we'll be doing is trying to understand what sort of traffic's coming into the area, who should be here, who shouldn't, what routes are they using, and then try and find out whether there's any routes we can close off and look to see if there's any areas we can pedestrianise or whether we can put some cycling improvements in and generally make the area feel a lot better for pedestrians and cyclists. The area behind us is a pretty busy junction. This is Bow Street and Long Acre. And Long Acre is one of the main routes through the area, east-west, and Bow Street and Enfield as the north-south corridor. And we've got an awful lot of pedestrians crossing here as well. So this is a key junction that we'll be looking at to see whether we can make any improvements. But there are lots of other locations around Covent Garden area that are like this, not least Covent Garden itself. That's got lots of roads coming in and out of the market area, a few of which we need to look at to see whether we can pedestrianise them. The van's just come into a pedestrian zone and he's obviously trying to load something, but officially he shouldn't really be here. The signs are quite clear about loading only between 7 in the morning and 11 at lunchtime. So it's this sort of behaviour that we'd like to try and stop, or actually find other areas where we can put these same sort of restrictions on the pedestrian zones.
So we're now in the neighbourhood just north of Oxford Street, but it's still within the Oxford Street district. And what we're proposing here is part of a cycling network, but it's not going to look like a normal cycling scheme. It's going to include features to do with sustainable travel. So it will have electric charging points, lots more greening, sustainable drainage, and lots more areas of public space, places for people to sit. So it's part of making a nicer neighbourhood that reflects its residential nature rather than some heavy infrastructure.
So Grosvenor Square currently works as a very large roundabout for traffic. It's very attractive for drivers and pedestrians are low down on the priority list around the square. So we're redesigning the highway around Grosvenor Square and Grosvenor Street to prioritise pedestrians, provide much bigger areas of footway, improve conditions for cycling, and reduce the impact of the traffic that currently circulates around Grosvenor Square. Grosvenor have commissioned a competition to come up with ideas for the square itself. They could range from huge sort of architectural projects to new museums or new landmark destinations and tourist attractions. And our role is really to facilitate that by significantly altering the setting for the square.
We're here in Paddington, which is West London, and what we've been commissioned by Westminster Council to do is look at ways of improving the area, predominantly by reducing rat running through the area. What a lot of local areas are finding, both residential and retail, is that with the advent of more and more cycle and pedestrian schemes, more traffic is being pushed onto local roads. So we've got Paddington Station literally just behind us. So this is Parade Street, which is the main sort of high street in the area that runs outside Paddington. And we want this high street to really thrive and be a place that isn't just somewhere that people stop outside Paddington, but really becomes a destination. So we've moved to a more residential part of the area, and you can see behind me there's a lot of traffic passing through it, essentially diverting away from the more strategic roads because this is the shortest journey time. So Google Maps or Waze or whatever app they have to tell them the route through is directing them this way, pushing them off the strategic roads. So the air quality, the noise pollution in these residential areas is getting worse, and residents are starting to complain. So there's a number of different sort of mitigation strategies. So it could be making a one-way system, so it's a little more convoluted to get through the area, so you can still get access in, but there isn't a direct route through, so it's then less desirable. Modal filters, so actually closing sections of road but allowing buses, cyclists to pass through those areas, but creating dead ends. And what we're trying to avoid is more physical measures such as speed humps and that sort of thing. So they often act to reduce speeds. Where there's a specific speeds issue, we can look at that, but in terms of pushing traffic off the corridors, they're generally not too effective. So it's more about severance rather than deterring traffic is what we're looking at.
We've had a really busy year, not only keeping our existing clients and growing those potentials, but we are looking exclusively at new clients, both affordable housing and open market. So we basically cover from Land's End up to Bristol. I personally go further for private developers, where we have got permitted developments in Leicester, where we just finished 12 units. We're currently doing 16 flats in Shrewsbury, and we're looking at another 80 flats based in Bridgewater, one in Torquay, and one unfortunately in Llandudno. Yeah, it's a fair bit of driving, but the clients, they understand what we provide, and I think the exceptionally high level of service we give them is why we get so much repeat business.
We're at Walkhampton Meadows, a scheme delivered for Live West, completed in September of 2018. For me, one of the most important things about this scheme is the fact that it was delivered within a very rural area to provide much needed housing for people who live locally, work locally, have family, so that they're able to stay within the area where they want to live. It's really nice to see the scheme delivered and being lived in. The landscaping's all come together, and the buildings themselves are still looking really fresh and really nice. As with Walkhampton, being within Dartmoor National Park, the planning authority had a fairly high input into the external materials used on the properties. This site's got a mixture of render, timber cladding and stonework, as well as natural slate roofs. Inside all of the properties, they're finished to a very high standard with nice fitted kitchens, and the properties that we delivered just behind us here have got views over Otter Tor. So one of the plots was actually purchased early off of plan and was switched around to put the living room on the first floor, giving the best vistas over the surrounding countryside. One of the more interesting clients that we're working for at the moment is for a scheme in Bishop Staton, which is the delivery of a single architecturally designed bungalow, which would probably look quite at home on Grand Designs. And this is being delivered for 2 ex-Chiefs players who we were appointed through due to working on another scheme for them in a different capacity. But they enjoyed working with Norman Rorke Prime so much that they'd asked if we would work with them on this scheme, because they felt it was important to work with people you enjoy working with, as well as those that can deliver a high quality service. They're large fellas, so we ensure that everything's delivered to them on time and up to the standards they'd expect in case anything terrible happened to us.
This project is about the upgrade of the existing lighting assets across the whole borough of Campden with high efficiency, low emission LED lighting.
So there's going to be about 7,700 lighting heads across the borough that will be replaced.
We initially did the cost-benefit analysis of doing this upgrade, and the result actually outweighed by much the initial capital cost of the investment. And based on our recommendation, the council was able to progress with that replacement, and which will have many benefits over the years to the local communities and to the council budget.
This is the West End project. It's Camden Council's scheme to deliver exciting improvements to the busy West End area. We have just finished works along Tottenham Court Road and now working on Gower Street, Prince's Circus and St Giles. Major changes have included turning Tottenham Court Road and Gower Street into two-way traffic area, which has resulted in reduced pollution and improved traffic congestion.
On Tottenham Court Road and Gower Street, we're making the verge more pedestrian friendly by widening the pathways and reducing the curb height to allow pedestrians to cross where required. Here we're keeping with the heritage theme by laying down the York stone pavers, and we'll be installing Brompton columns for the full length of Gower Street.
The biggest milestone has probably been meeting the deadline of the two-way switchover for buses on Tottenham Court Road. All the road marking, the new signs, the new signals, and the surfacing had to be done by the 19th of April for the switchover to happen over the Easter weekend. Also a huge amount of effort went into making sure the public were aware of the switchover to ensure that they were safe in the new road layout.
We are outside British Museum. This project is aimed at improving cycling, walking within the area. A number of streets will be pedestrianised, some streets will be closed off to traffic altogether. There will be widened footways, electric vehicle charging points as well introduced in the area. So this road will be partially pedestrianised to improve access to British Museum. I personally myself also would enjoy much more, sitting outside in a beer garden in the environment which is, traffic free or with reduced traffic. So that will be a positive change, positive improvement.
So this project is the Black Horse Lane Bridge, refurbishment of 2 bridges over the existing tram line, as you can see, and also there's another bridge on the north side which is over a pedestrian walkway. Well, the tram line being active obviously gives you a lot of restrictions in terms of how you can work around the public, not only the trams itself, but also the public sector of the community, I should say. So what they're doing at the moment is they've got the deck off on the existing bridge, and they've got precast concrete spanning at the moment, and they're just doing a lot of the servicing work. Meanwhile, the pedestrian still has access. We've got a temporary pedestrian bridge, which is what that green structure is behind us, and it's worked fairly well. We haven't had any issues too much with the neighbours. Yeah, it's been quite interesting.
So lots to celebrate and a huge amount to look forward to. All thanks to our core values and the incredible hard work that you all do. So thank you to you all.